like to give you an overview of the entire proclamation process for adopting new material. Let's take a look. Something that you should know is that every year the State Board of Education proclaims which courses need to be reviewed for new materials. So because we're in Proclamation 2019, these are the subjects that we will be evaluating materials for so that they are ready. We want to have the materials ready for students in August of 2019. That's why our work has to start now so that we have time to evaluate the materials, recommend them, go to the board, and then start ordering hopefully by the end of April so that we have materials in the hands of our teachers and students in August of 2019. I wanted to mention that from TEA, the priorities, so a biennium budget is given to every school district every 2 years. We have an instructional materials allotment. That allotment is used for purchasing instructional materials, and this is important, that cover all the TEKS. So the order, a priority for adopting materials and for recommending and purchasing materials is number one, we need instructional materials for our teachers that cover all TEKS for each grade level. And then secondly, we can start looking at other instructional materials or technological equipment. For example, if we didn't need any materials to teach reading language arts, Spanish language arts right now, we could use our money to buy iPads for every student. But we know that that's not a need. Right now we are desperately in need of new materials for teaching language arts K-8. Something else to think about. Through this process, the state is also evaluating materials that publishers submit. They're going through to identify and to certify that the materials being submitted by these publishers do indeed cover our TEKS. That's how they get on a state adopted list. Now, a district can choose to purchase non-state adopted materials. But if that's true, we are responsible for the full cost of those materials in all formats. That means if we need a book in Braille, which they're reminding us could cost as much as $40,000 per book, it's our responsibility as a district to get that material available to our students who need them. If we purchase materials that are on the state list, things like shipping are included. There's a guarantee that those materials will be available without a price increase for the next 8 to 10 years or the life of the adoption, and things like large print, books in Braille are included. Now, just so you have a picture of all of the work that is included in the committees that make up this entire process. There's the Instructional Materials Allotment Planning Committee. Those are our curriculum specialists and coordinators. It's myself, our instructional materials coordinator, some of our instructional technology folks making sure that systems are working together. We start this process in January. We're also doing some vetting of some of the materials to cut down on the time that it will take our evaluation committee. Now there's the most important piece. That's you, the Instructional Materials Selection Committee. You are the evaluators. You're reviewing and evaluating this material. You are certifying that the instructional materials do cover all elements of the essential of the TEKS that are required for the curriculum. And then you will vote for which materials you would consider moving forward on. Okay, so teachers, directors, lead curriculum specialists, and coordinators are all part of this selection committee. Once we get to the point in February where you're voting on what you would like to make as a recommendation, that will move forward to the Oversight Committee. The Oversight Committee is made up of our executive leaders, principals, assistant superintendents. They actually they review all of our recommendations, your rubrics, the outcome of your votes. They'll review all of that, and they will look at the budget, and they will either vote yes or no to approve whatever has been recommended by our review committee, And then that will indeed move forward to the final piece of the puzzle, and that's the Board of Trustees. So we will present the recommended materials to the Board of Trustees after our Oversight Committee votes yes or no. So here you can see kind of the whole process and the very in-depth process that's used in this entire proclamation and adoption of instructional materials. You may have seen this rapid decision making before. If not, it is something that our leaders have been using with and got from the Holdsworth leadership training. And it's just a way of thinking about how a decision is made. So we are part of this R, the recommend. We're gathering, providing data, and analyzing the materials. So the planning committee and you, the selection committee, are a huge part of this R. Now the people who need to agree on that are the oversight committee. Those were the voters and decision makers, the executive leaders in our district. Who's going to have to perform this decision once it's carried out? Well, our planning committee and teachers, you, the selection committee, you're going to be using these materials. Our planning committee has that final input from you. They'll consult your recommendations. They'll make sure that that fits our Round Rock philosophy and best practices. And then, of course, that will go to the oversight committee for them to agree. And once they agree on what will be adopted, the Board of Trustees will have the final D and decide and give that final okay. You have meeting dates. All of those are going to be, you'll either have a Google folder shared by Karen or Julie. We have a team folder for our Proclamation 2019, and that will have our meeting dates for you to refer to. Something to keep in mind is in January, we will have a publisher showcase. That showcase will be open to all teachers across the district. Our publishers, when you've decided on probably your final two, your favorite publishers, they'll be invited to this showcase, and they'll do an in-depth presentation of their materials. All teachers across the district will be invited, and they'll have an opportunity to give their input, and you'll see that input before you go to your final vote. That'll be on January 22nd. If we feel at that date that we're not quite ready for a vote, there still needs to be some conversations and some evaluation that needs to take place, then we'll move the voting date to February 19th, and that will be our voting date. So that's just an overview of the whole proclamation process and adoption process. And we do call them instructional resources versus textbooks because there are so many more things than just textbooks that we're looking at, and you'll see that through this process. It really does take an incredible effort from everyone, and we just cannot thank you enough for being part of this effort because you, the evaluators, of course the teachers that are going to be using these materials, are one of the most important pieces of this puzzle. Possibly there may be some frequently asked questions that you can find answers to on this final page. If not, myself, Amy Uzelman, I'm the library director, and I help oversee the instructional materials adoption process. Or Marie Nowak, who is our instructional materials coordinator, are always happy to answer your questions, as are Julie, Marissa, Karen, and Jennifer. So we are excited to have you aboard. This will be a wonderful opportunity to have a voice in what is used to teach our students for the next 8 to 10 years. We'll see you at the next meeting. Have a great day.